Chapter 4, The Two World of Interest, The Surface. The Line of Credit. The Power of Simple Interest. Naive sat across from the banker, a little nervous but curious. This time she wasn't here to apply for a mortgage. She wanted to understand something new, something she had only heard people talk about but never really understood. The banker smiled and said, "Let me show you the difference between a loan and a line of credit." Naive leaned forward, ready to listen. The banker's name was Jeff. He spoke with an easy confidence, the kind that made complex things sound simple. Jeff explained that a loan and a line of credit might sound similar, but they work very differently. A loan is one way. Once you borrow the money, all you can do is make payments until it's gone. But a line of credit is revolving, which means you can borrow, pay it back, and borrow again when you need it, like a reusable source of cash. Then Jeff began listing the types of lines of credit available. There's the PLOC, or personal line of credit, which is based on your personal income and credit score. There's the HELOC, or home equity line of credit, which uses the equity in your house as collateral. There's also the BLOC, or business line of credit, for people who own businesses and want to manage their cash flow. And then there's the most familiar one of all, the credit card, which is also a form of line of credit, just with higher interest rates and smaller limits. Naive began to realize that all these products had one thing in common. They were flexible. Unlike her mortgage, which locked her into the same payment every month for 30 years, these lines of credit allowed her to move money in and out freely. Then Jeff said something that caught her attention. "All these lines of credit use what's called simple interest," he said. Naive tilted her head. "Simple interest? How's that different from what I had before?" Jeff smiled. "Simple interest is charged only on what you use, not on the entire amount available. Let me show you." He took out a notepad and wrote down an example. Let's say you have a line of credit with a limit of $15,000. If you borrow the full amount, the interest is calculated using a simple method. You multiply $15,000 by the yearly rate, say 7%, then divide that by 12 months. That means 7% of $15,000 is $1,050 for the year. Divide that by 12 and you get $87.50 per month. That's how much interest you'd pay if you used the full amount for 1 month. Naive's eyes widened. "That's it? That's how they figure it out?" Jeff nodded. "Exactly. And here's the best part. If you pay it down or don't use the whole amount, you only pay interest on what you actually borrowed. If you only used half, you'd only pay interest on $7,500. If you pay it off completely, you owe nothing in interest the next month." That made her sit back in surprise. This was completely different from her mortgage, where she had to keep paying every month no matter what. "So it's like having a loan that listens to me," she said slowly. "It moves with me instead of trapping me." "That's right," Jeff said, "and since it's revolving, you can borrow again whenever you need it. Most lines of credit even come with a checkbook, or you can request one. You can write a check to take money out, and when you deposit money back, it counts as a payment. It's flexible. It flows both ways." Naive thought about her mortgage again. "So my loan doesn't do that because it only goes one way, right?" "Exactly," Jeff said. "A mortgage is designed to only go one direction, payments going out. You can't access the money again unless you refinance, which restarts everything. But with a line of credit, you're in control. You decide when to borrow, how much, and when to pay it back. The bank only charges interest on what's being used." Naive nodded slowly, understanding now why they called it simple. It really was simple. The interest didn't grow on top of interest like her mortgage. It didn't trap her in endless payments. It gave her freedom. For the first time, she saw the difference between the two worlds clearly. One was built to keep her paying forever, while the other gave her the power to control how long and how much she paid. That night, Naive couldn't stop thinking about it. She had spent years living inside the world of compound interest, paying for 2 houses, but only owning one. Now she discovered a world where money could finally work with her instead of against her. And for the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Stagnant money, Naive was also bothered by what Jeff had said, that the bank doesn't let money sit doing nothing. The bank moves money all the time rather than letting it sit. But when she looked at her own money, it was stagnant, the opposite of what the bank was doing. She let her money sit in her checking account and savings account, doing nothing. Dead money. Naive sat at her small kitchen table, a half-empty cup of coffee growing cold beside her notebook. She kept thinking about what she had seen during the cash flow game. As the banker, she had watched money flow like a river. Loans were given, debts were repaid, properties bought, rent collected. Every dollar had a purpose and never sat idle. Money moved constantly, growing quietly as it circulated. She opened her checking account on her laptop and stared at the numbers. There it was. Her paycheck, a few $1,000s, sitting quietly in her account. Bills came and went, leaving the balance lower each month, but nothing ever seemed to grow. Her savings account was even worse. A tiny trickle of interest barely kept up with inflation. Her money was dead. It was the opposite of what she had witnessed in the game. She had moved stacks of cash between players, recorded investments, and seen how every transaction built something larger than herself. In her own accounts, the dollars just sat there, stagnant, unnoticed, losing potential. Frustration rose. She had been working hard, earning consistently, but her money wasn't working for her. It sat still, quietly shrinking in value. She scribbled in her notebook. Checking account and savings. Money sits. Bank account, money moves. Dead money is wasted opportunity. Naive leaned back and imagined the flow she had seen at the game. She pictured stacks of bills and coins traveling between players, growing as they moved. She realized her own money could do more. It could circulate, create opportunity, and have purpose. She didn't know how yet. She only knew that sitting money was wasted money and moving money was alive. For the first time, she saw the contrast clearly. Dead money was the reality for most people, including herself. But the possibility of moving money, of seeing it work for a larger purpose, was now visible. The spark was there. A new understanding was beginning to form, quietly but powerfully. Money, like water, needed to flow.